It's really not surprised that I'm a big fan of meetings. I see a lot of value in having this interaction face to face, even if it is over Zoom, even if you are in a room with 100, 1,000 people. I think that meetings are super beneficial. So imagine my surprise when I did a poll on Instagram and found that almost a third of people wanted to get rid of meetings. Now, I honestly am so biased in my thoughts that when I saw that, I just assumed that it meant they wanted to reduce meetings. I thought that the crowd was looking at it and saying, yeah, we only want the meetings that are actually useful for building relationships. We only want meetings that help us gain understanding. We only want meetings that get our perspective. But I was wrong. When I probed for more, people said that they wanted nothing to do with meetings, that there was nothing that couldn't be handled by email. Now, one person actually said that they had successfully removed all meetings from their small business. Successfully removed all meetings. That sentence just doesn't even make sense to me. You can't be successful when you remove all meetings. They don't hold a single one anymore. Now, I honestly couldn't control my face, but sadly, I would put money on the fact that that business, that small business, unless they start to gain some perspective and change their tune a little bit, they won't be in business in another year or so. Because meetings are essential to transforming business results and creating a winning culture. So today I am giving you 3 meetings that your team needs to have to be successful because you can't successfully get rid of them. They will have you looking forward to meetings again, just like you used to do in school. Remember school assemblies? How you always wanted to be in them? It was because you got something out of them and they helped you connect things. No, it wasn't the silly mascot that did it, I promise. So, knowing that, which ones do you keep? If you wanted to get rid of them, even if you thought getting rid of all of them was the answer, how do you know which ones to keep so that you can be successful and be as efficient as possible? Well, my advice would be to only keep the meetings that are absolutely necessary to achieving your biggest goals. How do you know which ones those are, though, right? Well, if a message requires a specific tone to get the information across, it probably needs to be a meeting. If you want to invoke excitement, or if you need to really impart the gravity of a situation, you need to have it be a face to face meeting. Again, whatever that looks like based on the structure of your organization. If you have communication where you really need to be in a position to listen to people, you're going to have to be in a meeting. That's the only way you are going to get this rich depth of information back from the people who are listening to you. You can't listen to them unless they're there listening to you. If you have a challenging or complex situation that can be broken down best with stories, then you likely need a meeting. Those stories won't come across in email. You won't be able to put them up on a poster. You need to convey them through a meeting. Now, if you have something where you need to go deeper than again those emails or those posters could ever do, then the meeting is the right place for it. So let's look at the 3 most critical meetings and how you use them to give you this full, robust potential. So, our first one that we are going to talk about is going to be town halls. All right. Town halls are a type of meeting that are typically more of a top down style. So it's going to be a leader or a figurehead talking to a large group of people, usually a specific group like a department or the entire organization, but they are going to be people who have one large thing in common. Okay. These also can be called an all hands meeting if you have something like that. Typically, they are more of like a classroom style. So, a speaker at the front of the room or one person on your screen, like you're seeing here, talking to a mass amount of people. They would oftentimes have formalized agendas with very little wiggle room during the dialogue for people to kind of ask questions, but they typically have like a question and answer section either following each speaker if there are multiples or at the very end of the presentation. Town hall meetings usually include things like results, trending information, and goals. And actually, spoiler alert, all of our meetings are going to include that. So we're going to put them here: results, trends, and goals. A really amazing meeting will have everything kind of fall into this section of the Venn diagram, but they each will have at least one of these, usually all three. Okay. Now, this town hall meeting is going to include the results, goals, and trends of the entire department, the entire organization. All right. So you hear things from people like, they're just talking at me, right? Because it's in that classroom style. If they're just going to talk at me, why can't they just send an email? Now, if you're doing it correctly, a town hall meeting is going to have the most listening of any option because you get to use all parts of our listening. What are our different parts of listening? We listen early, we listen often, and we listen with our eyes. And in a town hall scenario, we get to pull all feedback prior to the meeting. We get to watch this mass group of people and how they respond to us in real time as we're speaking. And we get the follow up from those people who feel very strongly, strongly enough to send us emails or come to our office or leave us messages after the fact. So we are listening with our whole self when we are putting on these town hall meetings. Now, these one to many meetings allow leaders to share a consistent message that will hopefully be cascaded through our other two meetings as well. But they can use their tone, their body language, and their presence to convey more than any simple words in an email ever could. So, I want to give you an example of this. One leader that I was working with was putting together this new software implementation. I say putting together, it had been going on for quite some time. They were in year 4 of a 5-year project. Year 4 of a 5-year project. Think about the gravity of that for a second. They could see the light at the end of the tunnel. They knew they were closer to the end than the beginning. But at the same time, 4 years in is a long time. People tend to they start losing hope. All the shininess of this project, all of the you know delight that they had once felt about putting into place a new system was starting to wear off and people were getting frustrated. They seem to have this never ending bug list of issues that they wanted to fix. And while the project team had sent email after email sharing the results, showing the trending, showing where they were going, people were just sort of skimming them over at best. Lots of people had intentionally or accidentally sent them to the spam folder at this point and weren't even looking at them. So when I worked with this leader, it was about how do we convey this message differently? It's not just the facts, they're getting the emails. They don't care about the facts anymore. So she got up on stage and she said, "Hey, I want to show you where we're at. I want to show you our results. This is how many bugs we fixed. I want to show you the trending. Look, I want you to see that we are getting less reports of broken things with each passing month. We're moving in the right direction. This is exciting." But, she added, the thing that really keeps me up at night is that you guys are still dealing with this. I don't want you to have to deal with this anymore. And so she shared a really specific story about how one employee, Jared, had reported a bug. And within one business day, less than one business day, they had the fix. This is what she expected to see: one business day turnaround. With the old system, it could be as much as 3 weeks to a month, sometimes longer. But in this new scenario, it was one day. And really, she wanted to apologize to Jared and say that it was still keeping her up because he shouldn't have had to report anything in the first place. That is the difference of holding these things in a meeting. Sure, the results and the trends, where we're going, will be done within the next 12 months. All of that's great. They put that in writing. But it took her standing up in front of everybody in that vulnerable place with all eyes on her to say, "This is keeping me up at night. I am working to correct this for you." So she could give this presence to people. And then you could watch as every department started to see the people working on this as people again. Oh, it must be so hard. It must take a lot of work for all of them to get those bugs, those tickets worked out. You could watch the body language of everyone just sit up a little bit straighter with every aspect of this story that she shared. Now, the really beautiful part is those things can get reiterated, like I mentioned before, into these other meetings. So let's shift gears a little bit and let's look at team huddles. Now, huddles are going to be a direct supervisor and team of direct reports. That's the structure of them. They're going to be held on a more frequent cadence. So, whereas town halls might be quarterly, semi annually, something like that, a huddle might be a weekly basis, maybe even a couple times a week, depending on the type of work you're doing. And there's a lot more dialogue, a lot more back and forth. So this supervisor is able to share and be dynamic with the team, where the town hall leader isn't always able to do that on the spot. Now, these meetings include the same information. They're going to talk about results. They're going to talk about trends and goals, but it's all the results, trends, and goals of the team in the huddle. And then they are actually going to relate them back to what they found in the town hall. They're going to explain how everything that they do as a team improves or impacts the results of the organization or of the department. Okay. So, where in huddles, they might be looking at things like, what progress have we made towards our goals? Are our team metrics on track? Are we trending in the right direction? Now, oftentimes the supervisor is leading this conversation. They might be asking those questions, and then the employees are responding to them, but maybe even picking up different parts of the huddle to be able to lead themselves. Now, even with this one, you could hear complaints about this. Sometimes the complaints that you hear are things like, "I don't have time to listen to how busy everyone else is." We would be further ahead just getting work done instead of sitting in a meeting talking about the work that needs to get done. But in reality, a team huddle can compress time and they can share the load, ensuring that everyone is successful and that we are consistently raising the bar. So, a team lead was very experienced in leading huddles, and she introduced them in her first week on a new job, which I honestly thought was very forward of her, but she had discussed it with her boss, and her boss was reluctantly supportive, we'll say. He didn't actually think that it was going to go anywhere. He said that she could, do some weekly huddles with her team, but he really just thought it would fizzle out after a few of them because at that organization, the culture was that people are just too busy for all of these meetings. So she started holding 15-minute huddles with her group. And in those huddles, they would share what they were working on and how things were going. And she would use a really simple system to have them just break the ice and share how they were feeling about their workload. They used a traffic light. So if they were green, everything was going well. If they were yellow, there was some caution. They wanted people to be aware that, things were a little bit dicey. And if they were red, they were in over their head, but it might not be cause to make a change just yet. There are always times when we can get behind in our work. And sometimes it really is just putting your nose to the grindstone and pumping it out, right? So she had done these a few weeks in a row, and one team member was red for 3 weeks running. Okay. He was complaining that the volume of work was just too high. So the team started asking questions. Tell us about the process. Break down what type of work you're doing. Now, the team lead realized that he was actually duplicating his efforts, right? He was trying to have his work product show up in two different places so that different groups could see it. But that meant that he was doing two of the exact same process to get it into those places. Now, by uncovering that, they could create a single process that would save the company thousands of dollars. How did they do that? By eliminating the overtime that he was working every single week to get it done. He was in the office 2 extra hours every night. He was working 10 hours of overtime every single week. Now, when they eliminated the duplicative process, he could go home, or more accurately, he could shut his laptop and make dinner without actually having to multitask, get his kids to their practice on time. And the company, again, saved thousands of dollars in not paying for these overtime costs. So they used the results of the team, the goals of the people, right? Let's get him to doing family time rather than working overtime. Let's hit our expense numbers by reducing the amount of overtime that we're paying out, and let's have our results trend in the right direction. All of that files into what we're learning about in the town hall and how it impacts the overall organization. Okay, last one, last critical meeting for people, one on ones. Okay. A one on one is just what it sounds like. It's a direct manager and their direct employee meeting, just the two of them, usually on a very consistent basis. So sometimes it can be as far out as a month apart. Other times it can be as frequently as a week. Best one on ones are those that are led by the employee, not the leader. Now, ideally, they would still cover results, trends, and goals, but they are the personal goals. They are the individual trends of that person and the results that they contribute to the team. Are you seeing a trend here? Everything revolves around this. Okay. The common argument here is again that it's a waste of time. Leaders will say that they use their huddles to get all of this information. We have a really good culture, and everybody trusts enough to share what they need to share with me in the huddle. What they can say in front of me, they can say in front of their teammates. Okay, maybe odds are people want to have that individualized touch, and there are things that they don't want to share in front of their teammates. Now, the thing that you will hear from the individuals is that I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm an adult, for God's sakes. I don't need to spend all of this time talking about work. Just let me do the work. So, if you really listen to that, it is framed as a concern about time, but really it's about independence, not time specifically. Now, one on one meetings, when they're done well, provide more individual autonomy and empowerment than you would ever get just keeping your head down doing the work. These one-on-one meetings, they are a little bit different. They're different from the other meetings because they focus on the individual goals. So they will work in tandem with all of the other goals, results, trends of the team, the organization, everything. But they are the goals of this individual. So, say, for example, they want to get promoted, they want to be promoted within the same team that they're in. And you, as the leader, you have expectations, you have maybe time and role, you have certifications, you have skills that they have to actually demonstrate that they can complete before they get that promotion. Doing all of that work starts in the one on one because they need to understand what's expected to get there, right? And they need to be demonstrating to you that they're doing the work to get to that next step. Now, as they do that, they're contributing to the goals of the team. They're contributing to the results that are going to impact the trends of the team, and so on and so forth to the overall department and organization where that town hall comes into play, right? So they are different because those goals are tailor made to them, but they further support their one more puzzle piece in this overall picture. And without the one on one, you would have no way to set those goals or check in on the progress towards them. Now, one employee that I supervised directly was a perfect example of this. She was engaged during the town hall meetings, right? She was one of those people who was sitting straight up, nodding and getting into all of the information, truly digesting it. And her personal results were actually driving the team results. She was sort of encouraging this healthy competition where people were wanting to beat her, so to speak. So she was lifting all of the boats with that tide. Now, what I came to find out though is she was honestly getting kind of bored. She didn't want to just be the best on the team. She didn't want to just really learn how her role impacted the greater result. She wanted to have a bigger role in what that result was. She wanted to have a bigger impact overall. So she shared that with me in her one on one. And I was able to say, oh my gosh, thank you for this information. Let me see what I can do about this. I could bring it to my one on one with my boss and say, hey, I have an employee who's doing well, who has capacity, and she wants to make a bigger mark. How do we get her involved and get her more diverse experience here? We could take it to our team huddles where I was working with other managers and directors to say, what can we do to get her involved in different places? And we found a project that helped her do just that. So she could actually support a completely separate team that did not report to me and provide a service to them. She developed new processes for them that would help them become more efficient and make sure that they had some sort of audit trail on those processes. And it gave them the outside perspective from someone who could just make it really clean, not clutter it up with the way we've always done it, and get it tested out. And more than that, they got an extra set of hands, right? Because how many times do we know something needs to happen? We know something needs to change, but we don't have anyone to actually do it. So she got to have her boredom completely relieved. We got to streamline a process, and then it gave them the lift on that team that they needed. So her one on one was able to impact the huddles, right? It was able to impact at the team level because we could set a new goal for her. We could then share what she did at the town hall, and that information could come back as a kudos for her to get her closer to her goal of getting some sort of promotion outside of that team. She needed more visibility. She needed a more diverse experience, like I said. So, all of these things should be working in this complete ecosystem. And that's why I kind of laugh when people say, well, these meetings are just redundant. We're hearing the same thing over and over again. You might be. I I will totally grant you that people need to work on this, that this isn't always done perfectly. But also, that's not bad. It should be a consistent flow of similar information and how it all works together. It should not be brand new every single time you hear it. It should be the old information posed in a new way that helps you work at a new level. We do sort of love to hate meetings, right? We love to say that meetings are a waste of time. We love to say that they share nothing new, they're just repetitive. We love to say that they help leadership check the box. And in some cases, that might be true. You might have employees that are sitting in meetings that do waste their time, but they are covering the same bullets in the same way, session after session. You might even have these exact types of meetings, and they're just not being handled the right way. You could get the same information across with an email. But let me tell you, that is the very reason why you need to have them. You just need to have better ones. Your team needs to feel that their work is valued to the company. They want to know that they are working on important changes, and they want to know that they are your top priority. When you empower your team to bring their challenges to you in their one on ones, you're showing them that you are all ears on everything that's important to them. The town halls then give you the appreciation for what is going on holistically and how it's all going to work together. And when you combine those with your team huddles, your team has the ownership over their piece of this big vision, connecting people and their values to the company and their values. That is something that no email chain can actually provide. I hope that this was helpful. If you know someone who is also challenged in how to make meetings work for them, I want you to send this video to them. I cannot explain how valuable seeing this as an entire ecosystem can be for people. If you want to learn more about how to implement this in practice in your organization, then I want you to click the link below so that we can talk about what would make the most sense to help you get there. All right. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next.